Hello, I'm Mitchell McKinney, Dean of the University of Akron's Buchtel College of Arts and Sciences. As part of our monthly series Dialogue with the Dean, I visit with members of our college's outstanding faculty to learn more about their research and creative activity. Today I'm talking with Dr. Paul Levy, Professor of Psychology and co-author of Industrial Organizational Psychology, Understanding the Workplace, a book that provides us with a comprehensive understanding of the psychology of work. Dr. Levy, thanks for joining me to discuss your work, and congratulations on the release of the 7th edition of this text. What led you to take on writing of the first edition of the book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was teaching the course. I taught the course for many years. It's a technical field, which I'm guessing we'll talk about in a bit. And with the technical field, I felt like I needed a book that was more conversational, more accessible, and the books I was using were good, but they didn't have that conversational tone I was looking for. So that was my goal, to do a research-oriented book, because the University of Akron's I.O. program has been steeped in research for so many years, but also one that was accessible to students.
And I know that you're one of 3 co-authors on this edition, and so you have 2 other co-authors that you brought on board.
Right. So for the 7th edition, as you know, Mitchell, I was in the president's office for a couple years as vice president and chief of staff. And when it came time to do the 7th edition, I looked at my calendar and said, I can't do this. So I reached out to 2 of my former graduate students, both PhDs in I.O., Ali O'Malley and Brody Reardon, who actually had helped on the research for one of the earlier editions when they were graduate students, and asked if they would join me, and they were very excited. So the 3 of us have now taken on the 7th edition, and we'll move forward from there.
Well, I know our doctoral students are such important colleagues in the work that we do.
Absolutely.
So first, for those listening who may not be familiar with the field of industrial organizational psychology, can you provide us with a quick overview of the area, the study and practice of I.O.?
Sure. So the way I think about it is, anything that we study in psychology, we can study in the workplace. So whether we're studying behavior or attitudes or relationships or anything like that, all those things happen in the workplace. So it really is the application of psychology to the workplace. And in the book, I think I've always said, for your grandmother, the definition is, how do people get along at work?
Well, and I notice in this latest edition that you examine a number of recent developments in the workplace that we're all trying to understand. For example, how has the shift to greater remote and hybrid work influenced the workplace and our work relationships? Yeah,
there's probably more big changes in the workplace for this edition than any, just given where we are in time. So the hybrid piece is a big one. With COVID came the opportunity or the requirement to do hybrid work. That's not going to go away in terms of having the technology to do it. There's some research that even indicates sort of the sweet spot is about 15 to 20 hours on site and the rest at home, because you still have the socialization of being at work, but you also have the flexibility of being at home. We also know that the return to work mandates, they call it RTO, they don't work. People react against them. It affects morale, it affects tension and stress, and it actually reduces productivity, even though a lot of companies and government actually are going back to that now.
Wow. So you also address in this edition the growing emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion within the workplace and organizational settings. What advice or best practices for organizations do you offer on this front?
Well, obviously, this is a context that's changing a great deal. Even when I teach my class, which I'm teaching now, we spend a good bit of time talking about federal legislation, affirmative action, Title VII, all those sorts of things. And I tell students, what I'm telling you today is what I know today. What I tell you on Wednesday is what I'll know on Wednesday, because it is changing that quickly. But we do know that organizations that are more productive and more efficient and more effective when they're diverse. We know that. We know that organizations have a better return on investment when women are involved in the upper levels of the organization. We also know the same when women are when there's a better representation of women on boards. So we know that diversity helps organizations, it increases performance, it increases return on investment. The thing we need to keep in mind is that diversity is a broad concept. I mean, I like to think of diversity as any individual differences between us. It's not just race, it's not just gender, it's not just age, it's all kinds of things. And we are better for our diversity. So organizations need to keep that in mind. They need to work within constraints, certainly, that we're seeing, but it's really, really important.
Well, the next challenge or change I'm particularly interested in, it seems like that all of us are trying to figure out AI, artificial intelligence, and how it will impact our lives. So how is the integration of AI, machine learning, reshaping workplace dynamics, and how does your text prepare students to navigate those changes?
Yeah, this one's fascinating. Kind of like the hybrid workplace, we have the technology to go hybrid. We have the AI technology. It's not going away. And if anyone thinks it's going away, they need to kind of snap out of that because it's not. It's being used in various ways. So the front end of IO psychology is often around selection, right? How do we get good applicants and how do we hire them? And we assess, we measure, and we do all sorts of things. AI is being used to kind of help with that. For instance, you know you're looking for someone who has particular KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. Well, you can feed that into AI, feed in the resumes, and they can do the first scan and give you the 20 people that match those KSAs best. So now you've maybe gone from 100 applicants to 20. Now you have the real work to do. But AI can help with that. It can help in terms of performance appraisal, another big element of what we do in IO, because it can help go into the data and pull out the pieces that a supervisor may need to write that performance review.
Wow.
The other interesting one is around feedback, which is kind of the area where I spent a lot of my research time, is it can, in some ways, get access to the tone of feedback messages. I was actually at a conference, our national conference, and one of my former students was presenting, and he was talking about this and how he took all of his emails, put it out in AI, and asked it to kind of identify where there might be tone issues. And while he was giving his presentation, he said one of the things it identified was an email I sent to Dr. Levy, who's sitting in the audience, that was a little stronger than it needed to be.
Wow.
I don't remember that email,
Wow.
but it can access those sorts of things. So, you know, these technology pieces are not going away. So organizations need to figure out where they help us and the weaknesses, because I
Right.
talk to folks who use it and then double check, and some of the stuff's just flat out wrong.
Right.
But we can't be afraid of it either.
Right. Well, Paul, congratulations on the publication of the 7th edition, and thanks for sharing this very important work with us and joining us on Dialogue with the Dean. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, I appreciate the offer. Thanks.